a reputation for being a little rambunctious, hard to get along with, but here looks pretty stable. And
well, he's very good here, but at the paddock he can be a bit of a handful sometimes, and he's been getting better, but we have to take the pony in with him and do a few things with him just to keep him settled.
What are the differences between Chief Bearheart as a 3-year-old when he finished second last year to Singspiel and Chief Bearheart as a 4-year-old?
Well, he's probably more mature this year, and again, he's lightly raced, whereas last year he had a pretty serious campaign. And I think he should be just at the top of his game right now.
Well, we're kind of belittling your other horse by not having him in the shot. The two of them out here might be a little too much to handle.
Yes.
So Desert Waves is in the barn right now, and he's a 7-year-old. So what are the challenges of training an older horse like that?
Well, he still runs well. He still gives everything he's got. He's a very good horse, and the fact that there's no speed in this race sets up for him. I mean, he can set a false pace perhaps, and it's what he did last time when he won Niagara. So he might be a surprise to some people.
And Mark, it never hurts to have the great Sandy Hawley up.
No, that's right. Sandy can get the job done.
Thanks a lot.
Sure thing.
Sandy can get the job done indeed. There's Hawley up on Desert Waves. Sandy Hawley winning the International with Golden Act in 1979, Youth in 1976. 7 minutes to post, back live at Woodbine right after this. Actually, 97 Canadian International. Jim, you said earlier that the small field favors the weaker horses. Let's have a look at post positions. With only 6 horses, post positions important here?
I don't really think that it's that important with the long run of the first turn, but the fact that Desert Waves is right in the middle and he'll control the pace, I think is very significant, because he can hem the horses in that are inside of him. He can control the horses by fanning them to the outside around the turn.
And there you see standing in front of the starting gates is Terry Leibel. Terry, this course listed as firm this afternoon. You've been down on the course. You're there right now. You've talked to some of the jockeys. Some final thoughts.
I'll tell you, Brian, you're exactly right. This turf course, in all the years I've covered racing, I've never seen it in such optimum condition. What I also love about the E.P. Taylor turf course, you've heard me talk about it before, is the proximity to the crowd. Look at them. They all congregate here. The start-finish line was just a few steps away. The gate, as you can see, is right over here. Let me run down where they're going to come off. Here's Romanoff's spot. The lone gray horse in the field down the aisle will come out of here. And then the 3 Canadian horses, Crown Attorney, Desert Waves, Chief Bearheart comes out of this spot, and then the inside post position belongs to another European horse, Strategic Choice, who, by the way, is behaving beautifully. And then if you just look up through here, you'll see they're making their way out to load for the 60th running of the Canadian International. Brian?
All right, Terry, as the horses prepare to load, number 3 is Crown Attorney, owned by Ontario. They've got an interesting pub down there in Brockville, Ontario. We'll give you the name of it in just a minute. I want to talk first, though, about the jockey, Todd Cable from Winnipeg.
Well, he's a Sovereign Award winner. He's the best jockey we have on divisions. He was hurt last year, away much of the time, and that really crippled his chances of being the top jockey last year. But essentially, he's missed some time this year, but he's got the best statistics of any jockey at Woodbine. He's a very high percentage rider. He can really get horses to go with his persuasive manners.
You think they'll be hoisting a pint or two this afternoon at the Isaac Brock in Brockfield if Crown Attorney at 11-1 comes through?
Well, wouldn't that be nice? He's now the longest shot on the board, and of course, the Canadians have a great affection for Crown Attorney. He's been a good horse here. He's won some very significant races. You'll notice the Chief Bearheart Desert Waves 3-5. And essentially that is prohibitive. It's rare that you would see a Canadian horse get so much respect in an international field like this, but I think if Chief Bearheart was in any other locale to run, be it California, be it New York, be it Chicago, he would still get a lot of support.
The 6 horses still approaching the starting gate. Jim, we should mention the fact there's an air of excitement in the air here this afternoon. Not only is it a magnificent fall afternoon, there's a good crowd here. The people excited about this race, and we should talk about the Northern Dancer influence.
Well, you know, Brian, everybody in the race except down the aisle has the Northern Dancer influence. Let me just tell you about some of these here. You've got Chief Bearheart, he's by Chief's Crown, that's a Danzig horse, so you've got it there. You've got Desert Waves, he's out of a Vice Regent mare, and that, of course, is the Northern Dancer line. Strategic Choice is by a very good sire, Alleged, who won the Arc twice, but the Northern Dancer influence comes from the dam side. You see Chief Bearheart there. Crown Attorney is by Silver Deputy, that goes back to the Northern Dancer line. And Romanoff is by Nureyev, and of course, Nureyev is a great sire of Miesk.
Jim, just a couple of seconds before we give it to Dan Loisel, there's a look at the big crowd. This is a left-handed course. How will that play?
Well, it's very important because the horses here are used to left-handed courses. It could be a concern for the Europeans, except Strategic Choice handled it very well in the Japan Cup. And Romanoff handled it very well in the Epsom Derby. So we have horses that are well qualified for a left-handed turf course.
And certainly well qualified to call this race this afternoon is Canada's voice of thoroughbred racing. Chief Bearhart's going in. Dan Loisel, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. The Samson entry, Chief Bearhart and Desert Waves, heavy favorites at 3 to 5. They're both in there now. The local horse, Crown Attorney, walking in the pink cap. You can hear the crowd cheering, Brian. They're loving this. Down the aisle is in. We wait on Romanov and Olivier Pellier. They're at the post. In the Canadian International. Off a step slowly was Crown Attorney. Desert Waves goes right to the front of the center. On the outside is Down the Aisle. Strategic Choice taken in hand now, as is Chief Bearhart. Romanov just to the outside of Chief Bearhart, and then Crown Attorney as they make their way up the incline to the backstretch. Desert Waves is on the inside. Mild pressure from the outside from Down the Aisle, and drafting in behind them is Strategic Choice. They head up to the backstretch. Desert Waves. Desert Waves, the early leader. Romanov is on the outside as they enter the backstretch. That initial quarter mile was in 26 and 2. Not going very much up front. Desert Waves, Romanov on the outside. Strategic Choice is third. Half mile in 50 and 4. Holly not alone on the lead with Desert Waves. Pellier and Romanov right alongside. They match strides. Strategic Choice continues to draft in behind that pair. Crown Attorneys to the outside. Then down the aisle in the late running Chief Bearhart as they continue along the backstretch. Romanov on the outside by a head. Desert Waves sticks right with him to the hedge. Strategic Choice. A perfect ride by Quinn at this stage, just a length and a half off the lead. Crown Attorney has him pinned down in the hedge. Then down the aisle and Chief Bearhart as they sweep into the far turn. Desert Waves and Romanov, bridle to bridle. Strategic Choice still in behind them. A mile and 39 and 2, the midway of the turn. Desert Waves and Romanov, and here comes the Chief. The Chief is rolling and on the leaders in a flash. Santos cuts him loose, and Chief Bearhart's up to do battle with Romanov now as they come over the top of the stretch. And it's Chief Bearhart who has taken over. Day has down the aisle on the outside. He is coming. It's Chief Bearhart by a length and a half. Day is all over down the aisle. Romanov is back in third. Strategic Choice is fourth as they come to the 8th ball. And it's Chief Bearhart by 2. Down the aisle trying desperately to catch him. But he won't. It's Chief Bearhart. And for the grade 1 feather in the cap of Canada's Chief Bearhart. He wins the Canadian International. Down the aisle, second, Romanov third. Strategic Choice was fourth, and Crown Attorney. And finishing last was Desert Waves, the running time 2:29. The Chief is ready for Hollywood Park in the Breeders' Cup, Brian.
He is indeed, Dan Loisel, and of course CBC Sports will be live at Hollywood Park on November the 8th. Jim Bannon and I will be there. Jose Santos wins with Chief Bearhart, his second victory. He won in 1986 with South Jet. And Jim, it'll be a very special and a very touching moment for Sampson Head Ernie Samuel as he wins for the second time.
Yes, of course he suffered a bad injury about this time last year. He's obviously got great therapeutic help from his horses. It's great for him to come out and see them. He's usually here. You'll notice right off the bat, Brian, that Desert Waves gets a great start. He didn't have it today when the punch was called at the top of the stretch, but he did his job because he sort of softened up some of the horses that wanted to run with him. In other words, the pace was slow to begin, an opening quarter in 26 and 2, but the pace accelerated quickly in the middle stages as they turn into the backstretch here. You see Romanoff on the outside with that big white strip coming down his face, and he essentially sacrificed himself to be up close with Desert Waves. And in the middle pace here, they went 24 and 2 and then 24 for the 3 quarters, and that's something that's going to take a lot of power out of you. So as they turn for home, the lead horses have been softened. You'll notice Desert Waves with the white hat slipping back to fourth on the inside. And essentially, Jose Santos has Chief Bearheart geared up here for this longest stretch run in North America. Believe me, Brian, when you're in front, you want it to be the shortest stretch in North America, but he showed his class. As I had said at the outset, if he ran the type of race in the Sky Classic and repeated it here, they were not going to beat him. I thought it was a great race for Down the Aisle, because essentially he had to go in a paceless race, and he's not as good at quickening as Chief Bearheart is. But we've got a real star here. He's a great grandson of Secretariat. He carries the Northern Dancer line, and very important, of course, for Sampson Farm and Mark Crosstead.
Big day for Sampson Farm, and right now let's go down to Terry Leibel.
All right, Brian, indeed, it's a great day for trainer Mark Frostad, his assistant Malcolm Pierce. We go back a long way, Mal. This must be very, very sweet for you.
Oh, it's a thrill. The Chief had trained so well into the race, and he just proved it today. He's a good horse.
He behaved nicely. I saw you were very attentive to what was going on at the paddock. Did that give you a sense of what the day was going to be like for him?
Well, he's been improving all along, and he was very good today. That last race, he'd come off 11-week layoff, so he probably he was a little sharp that day.
Mark, what did he tell you about where he's at in his career with this result?
Well, he's certainly one of the best turf horses in America, I would think. Maybe, well, obviously we'll have to sit down with Mr. Samuel and see if we'd look at the Breeders' Cup.
And if you had the vote in that, how would you envision Breeders' Cup chances for this horse?
Well, I'd want to see how he comes out of the race first.
All right, Mark Frostad, Malcolm Pierce, job well done. Chief Bearheart wins the Canadian International. Brian?
Thank you, Terry. The 4-year-old chestnut son of Chief's Crown, Jim Bannon, is the newest member of the Millionaires Club. Chief Bearheart came into this race with about $832,000 in winnings. He adds $600,000 here this afternoon. So it's Chief Bearheart for Sampson Farms, trained by Mark Crosstead and ridden by Jose Santos winning. Stay with us. We'll return back live to Woodbine after this.
Sure, and we probably want to go to the Breeders' Cup, and want to talk with the trainer Mark, and you know, when I felt there, I have a lot of confidence in him, and I've been training him about 5-6 times already, and every time that I fall in love with him.
Well, you've ridden some outstanding horses, including a winner of this race in 1986, South Jet. Give us a sense of the horses that you've ridden. Where does this horse fit in, Chief Bearheart?
Well, it says in my book he want to be one of the top horses I ever rid. You know, you probably remember Manila in 1986 when he won the Breeders' Cup, the 2 million. He was a wonderful horse, and this horse is not far from him. And he's a young horse. He's still 4 years old, and I'm pretty sure he will improve a lot. And you know, I have to give a lot of credit to the trainer. He's bring this guy in a wonderful form and every time he comes to the track.
Well, Mark Frostad said that he's going to look at the race, and you'll have a lot of influence as to whether this horse goes to the Breeders' Cup. Congratulations, Jose Santos.
Thank you.
Brian?
Terry, there's Donovan Bailey and Mrs. Ernie Samuel, and there's a wonderful story. Ernie Samuel, loved and respected in Canadian business and, of course, Canadian thoroughbred racing, suffered bleeding between his brain and the skull last New Year's Eve. He's made a remarkable recovery. He was here in his wheelchair earlier in the week for the draw. There's his daughter, members of his family, but I'm happy to say that Ernie Samuel is making tremendous progress. He looks extremely well, and I think this will help him this afternoon, Jim.
It's fondly reminiscent of a story in 1967 when He's a Smoothie won for Bill Beasley, who was in a wheelchair at that time also. It had a very moving scene of bringing He's a Smoothie up to Mr. Beasley to give him a pat, and obviously this is a very therapeutic nature of the horses, that they can help people with injuries. There's a lot done at Woodbine here for the disabled that ride horses. They get a lot out of it, and obviously for people recovering, this can be a very therapeutic measure as well.
Well, it's a very special day in very many ways here at Woodbine this afternoon. We'll return live to Woodbine in the 1997 Canadian International on CBC right after this. 4 made $8.10. A 6-horse field, and Jim Bannon, let's show the viewers how all 6 finished.
Well, Chief Bearheart ran the last half of a mile in a sparkling 49-3, was the winner over Down the Aisle, trained by Bill Mott. I'm sure he's had enough of these Canadian horses. He did lose to Chief Bearheart in Chicago as well. Romanoff well-traveled and rewarded with a 3rd-place finish. Strategic choice, Crown Attorney. The only horse to not earn any money was Desert Waves, but he did his job, tiring the others.
Crown Attorney gets $30,000 for finishing fifth. Once again, Terry Libel.
All right, Brian, and an ecstatic Samuel family, let me introduce you. Mrs. Samuel, son Mark, Tammy's husband Rick. Congratulations to you. What does it mean to Mr. Samuel? I know you were up watching with him and he waved to you from up in his position. What does it mean to him?
We're all very, very excited, and Ernie was jumping up and down with excitement and delight.
Tammy, I know that you're very hands-on in terms of the racehorse operation. Mark hedged on this question. Will Chief Bearheart go to the Breeders' Cup?
Well, I'd like to hedge too, but after a race like this, we sure will give it serious consideration. We thought about it before, and I think he probably deserves a real shot at it.
And the last word to a show jumper compatriot, Mark. Your thoughts on, one, your dad's recovery and what this does for him to see one of his great horses do so well.
Well, I think all during the year it's been exciting for him to watch the horses. It's been a key part of his recovery, and this is just one more step in that road. I'm thrilled for that.
Absolutely. The Samuel family, including Mr. Samuel, high atop the grandstand here at Woodbine. Brian?
Well, the Samuel family, no stranger to the Breeders' Cup. Dan Smartley, the only Canadian winner, that was in the distaff in, 1991. Jim, let's talk about the Breeders' Cup. We'll have it live November the 8th. There's some real Canadian connections, and as we talk about it, let's show the viewers some of the Canadian horses we think will be at Hollywood Park.
Well, there'll be many, many good ones from here, of course, and Chief Bearheart is certainly one of them. We've got Influence, a great Canadian bred who runs out of New York. Black Cash is a 2-year-old for Frank Stronach. He'll be there. Kirby Song's already there. She's a great 2-year-old filly from here in Toronto. Touch Gold, remember him, he was developed here. He did win the Belmont. Whiskey Wisdom, big winner on Friday in Kentucky. He'll be going for the Classic. Formal Gold, great Canadian bred, runs out of the United States. Helmsman, a Frank Stronach horse, another Stronach horse there, relaxing rhythm. We may have one more to add. It seems to change every day. Prime Alley, who won the Princess Elizabeth here at Woodbine, may be going for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
And again, the Breeders' Cup, November the 8th, live coverage. We will be at Hollywood Park in California. Jim, some final thoughts on this, the 60th running of the Canadian International.
Well, I'm always taken by the pedigree angle, and of course you have a great-grandson of Secretariat winning this. You've got the Northern Dancer influence. He's got a great stud potential now. He is a Grade 1 winner. It's the 6th horse to win a Grade 1 for Mr. Samuel. That's very significant. He has everything you want in a stallion. Mr. Prospector blood. He's got Repo blood. He's got Northern Dancer blood. He's got Bold Ruler blood, and of course the Secretariat blood.
How significant to Canadian racing is it to have a Canadian horse? I mean, Sky Classic, I think, was second and then won. Chief Bearheart was second to Sinksfield and then won. How important to end the season, Grade 1 race, Canadian winner?
Well, I think it's very important because I think the rest of the world can see that we have very good horses right here in Toronto at Woodbine will be well represented.
Well, they were well represented here this afternoon. Chief Bearheart winning the 60th running of the Canadian International. And Jim, right now, a bonus, and we remind viewers that following late local news on the full network tonight, we will have a rebroadcast of this, the Canadian International. So again, check your local listings as it follows late local news. And just a reminder, next